Every summerer's
Top 100.
Every summerer's
Top 100.
He's got a voice that's really the bomb. He'll make a choice that'll aggravate Tom. I hate to spoil it, but when all's said and done, Merchant of Venus gonna be number one.
Every summerer's
Top 100.
Oh, hey, Top 100, welcome back, all that stuff. I had the weirdest dream. So like a bunch of the games that I had fall off the list, that were on the list, that aren't on the list anymore, well, they kind of ganged up on me and ambushed me. I remember it like it was just a few moments ago.
What's the matter, Eric? Don't you want to race dog sleds anymore?
Yeah. Or make siop fudgy microwave meals?
I thought you liked us plucky little rodents.
I think the clues say that we should fight back. Yeah. This spells doom for you, Summerer. Let's send him into deep space.
See? Pretty freaky, right? At least we have 10 great games that are on the list.
Number 20. Stop Thief.
Stop Thief is pretty much where it was the last time I did this list. It's now number 20. It was 21 3 years ago. Stop Thief is a hidden movement game and is my highest ranked hidden movement game amongst all of the selections. It's a reimagining of the 1979 classic. I never played the original. The app allows you to play with some of the old mechanisms and the sound effects. I think I prefer the new stuff. I also really appreciate that there's many ways to play this game. You can play the basic version, which is everyone is trying to catch the same mysterious person moving around the board, and you get rewards for catching them. My son loves playing the one versus many system, where one person gets to choose where they're hiding around the board, sort of like Spectre Ops, really. And then the clues get sent out to everyone else, and you get to laugh and cackle as they all try and figure out the clues of where the person went. You're listening to sound effects and like, oh, they went, it's footsteps, or I can hear traffic, so they're outside at this move, and where else could they be as they try and sneak around into different buildings and steal stuff. It's a really, really cool game. No matter how you play it, Stop Thief is a lovely family game. And number 20.
Number 19. The Crew.
The Crew has been moving up. It's number 19 now. It was 31 when we did the list last time. And part of that advance is the newer edition, Mission Deep Sea, which sort of opens up the system, whereas the underwater, no, this is the underwater, the space version of The Crew had sort of a pre-described sequence of missions. This is a lot more openness as you just put out a certain number of points worth of challenges and try and achieve those. So it feels like it has more replay value, even though the original did too. Backing up, The Crew is a cooperative trick-taking game. You will have a certain number of goals that you need to achieve. Maybe somebody needs to take these two cards, the red 9 and the green 8. And this one needs to win 3 tricks, but they have to be in a row. And I need to make sure I don't win any tricks. Something like that. And you try and, with very little communication, get through all of those challenges. It, of course, progresses and gets more and more difficult with more challenges as you go, and it becomes a delicious challenge and a really cool introduction to trick-taking. If, as like my kids, you've never done so before. The Crew, great game, number 19.
Number 18. Food Chain Magnate.
Food Chain Magnate. Holding pretty steady at number 18. It was, 17? Not too long ago? Yeah, 3 years ago it was number 17. Food Chain Magnate is about creating a food business. You are claiming your territory, you're advertising your stuff, you're producing product, and you have a huge corporate structure that you are building off of. You start out with just you, and then you add some managers, and you add some delivery people, and a pizza chef, and all sorts of stuff to make all of this work. And producing the food, and advertising, and then selling and delivering the food to people. Hopefully, more efficiently than your opponents. But much like many splatter games, this can be really nasty, as other players can come along and produce more pizza to the customers that you have spent so much time advertising to. They want pizza, but now they're going to buy it from up the street because those people are closer. It is a stark presentation. This graphical stuff it's very light. I mean, like, even just the back of the box has nothing there. That's just Splatter's thing. And because there's so much you're worried about in the game, if the board were any busier, you'd have problems, I think. Some people, Tom, aren't excited about that particular approach in graphic design, but I appreciate that the focus here is on the gameplay and on making a really tight system that works. And that's why it's hanging in there in the top 20 food chain magnate.
Number 17. Legendary Encounters / Legendary.
At number 17 is Legendary, which I've lumped together with Legendary Encounters, which, while it has a similar system, there's an element of looking ahead that I really like. It feels more like a straight cooperative game. My favorite of those is the Alien version of Legendary. But the one that I play more often is Standard Legendary Marvel, the first. And Marvel Legendary is, I guess I'm doing okay on storage here. I've got Marvel Legendary in 2 of this size box. We've got, I think, all of the heroes are in here. No, this is all of the standard stuff. This is all of the other things, the villains and the monsters and the minions and the schemes and all of that. And then this one is the heavy one. This has all heroes in it. So when you open it up, I've got all the rule books so that I can reference all of the keywords, but this is all heroes. Just a solid brick of heroic goodness. I love the idea of putting together a team and dealing with the situation. There are so many possibilities in putting together a game of Marvel Legendary. It does take a while to set up, for sure. But I love that you can pick a villain, pick a scheme they're trying to do something to take over the world, and then operate within those parameters, all within this deck building system. It is technically cooperative, although Standard Legendary has a points-based system, which I've always described as a Employee of the Month competition. You have to defeat the bad guy. You all are working together to do so. But at the end, we award a winner, and it's more like a participation trophy than really anybody going for the points. That it just doesn't, to me, that doesn't feel like the right way to play. I love that there's all sorts of cool expansion packs with new heroes and new ways to add to the system. I will never exhaust all of the possibilities. It is literally impossible to do so because there's so many possibilities. But every time I see a new pack of heroes, it's like, ooh, that might be fun. Ooh, Squirrel Girl? Okay, let's throw Squirrel Girl in there and see what happens. Or a recent set has a WandaVision scheme, which I enjoy trying out as the villain tries to destroy television forever. It's fun stuff. Marvel Legendary is the oldest of the Legendary games, but still going strong.
Number 16. Podium Explosion.
Potion Explosion has always been in the teens. As soon as it debuted, there was a brief blip in the podcast where it showed up in the top 10. Potion Explosion still remains a favorite because it's so much fun to puzzle. So the basic mechanism of Potion Explosion is that you're acquiring marbles, ingredients for your potions, and they appear in sort of a dropper, a hopper device with several rows of marbles, and you're trying to remove them so that the ones that are left over collide and are the same color. If that makes sense. So if I remove like a yellow from the middle, but there's 2 blues over here, and the 2 blues touch after because they're all sort of gravity fed, then I get those blues as well. And maybe I'll be able to trigger another explosion and get those as well. And making that happen is really, really fun. You feel like, aha, I did this amazing thing to get a fistful of resources to build my potions. And those potions There's a bunch of those, and they allow you to do cool things, to manipulate the array of marbles. So stealing one, or swapping them, or turning one color into another color, stealing them from your opponents. It's so much fun to make all of this work. You feel like a genius when you trigger a bunch of potions and steal a big old cluster of resources, and then lay out what you're working on. And of course, all of these are worth points at the end of the game. And you win awards, academic awards. There's some expansions that add new wrinkles, assistants and stuff, goals to complete. But even just in its base game, Potion Explosion has a lot of fun things to explore, and it hits the table a lot, constantly, which is why it remains in the teens. Potion Explosion, number 16.
Number 15. Mechs vs. Minions.
Falling just a little bit into the teens is Mechs versus Minions. This is a cooperative game of robot programming. I guess they're more like mechs, as it would say in the title. You have a programming board that you are using to try and complete objectives, and it's a scenario-based game. And so sometimes it's capture the flag, sometimes it's just take out all the baddies. Whatever the situation is, you're trying to do that through the programming of your mechs. And as you get stronger and stronger cards, they come in sort of different suits. And so the more of a particular type of card you have in a particular slot, the stronger that action is. So you're trying to maybe specialize a little bit, but you're also dealing with only a few programming registers. And so you have to move and attack and position and do all of this while drafting cards with your teammates and making sure you leave that important card for your teammate who really needs that important card, because they have to do something this turn. It's awesome and amazingly produced. This is not an inexpensive game, but I really appreciate the care that went into the manufacture of this. I also really enjoy the trays that these figurines fit into. Let's see, what a lovely sound, right? So these trays, one, amazing, but you have all of these minions that come in 3 different sculpts. And one of the just wonderful things the manufacturers did is that all of the slots can hold all 3 of the minion types. So instead of searching for a particular slot for a particular sculpt, you just throw them in the slots when you're cleaning up or packing it all up. It's just so nice. All of this thought that went into the production of this game. Fantastic adventure, programming, and a cooperative game. Mechs versus Minions.
Number 14. Gizmos.
Moving up just a little bit into the number 14 slot is Gizmos, a game by Phil Walker Harding from Kaman. This is a joyous engine building game. You're collecting little gizmos, obviously, tiles that allow you to do stuff. And the way you build those gizmos is by collecting marbles from a hopper. And you can either do a blind pick out of the top of it or pick one that you can see, and that might trigger other gizmos. So it's all about creating a system that when I do this, it also triggers this, which might trigger this. It might double this resource and do this so that you can more efficiently build more gizmos. And then it's a race to a certain number of, I think it's 16 tiles, ends the game, and hopefully you've scored more points than your opponents. It has flavors a little bit of Potion Explosion. I think that's just because of the marble selection aspect of this, but I like how it, the pieces all come together, and when you can get that engine running, it's a lot of fun. Gizmos.
Number 13. Dominion.
Dominion, at number 13, also lives up here in the big box on top of the shelf. In one of these, I guess I need to get it out just for illustrative purposes. Oh my goodness, this gets heavier with each expansion. It is one of these giant BCW cardboard boxes. Look at that thing. Oh my, I'm not taking that out. We're putting it right back where it came from. Dominion is the grandfather of deck building games. You have an array of kingdom cards, 10 each time you play, from however many expansions you have, and from there you will have a starting deck and buy cards from that central array. and try and make the most efficient engine you can, earning points and outplaying your opponents, sometimes attacking your opponents, and getting those lucrative scorecards to win the game. But of course, those scorecards clog up your deck. So when do you buy them? When do you leave them? And instead spend your money on stuff that makes your deck more efficient. It is a cool, tricky puzzle. I appreciate the fact that it is just so straightforward of a deck building mechanism, and that's why it's still sticking around in the teens at number 13. That heavy box of Dominion.
Number 12. Scythe.
Scythe. Moving up to number 12 is a game by Jamie Stegmaier. It's sort of built around the art of Jakub Rosalski. It's this agrarian mech-infested world. It's really hard to explain exactly what the aesthetic of Scythe is. On the table, this looks like a dudes on a map, a Risk-style combat game. That is, while there is an element of combat in Scythe, this is much more of an efficiency engine, much more my style of game. You have a big map, you've got lots of factions. Those factions come with boards that describe the different actions you can do, and you can make those actions better as you go by developing your civilization, by collecting resources off the board, and just making things smoother as you do those actions later in the game. Ultimately, it's a race to get 6 victory points. At least that ends the game, and you're hopefully ahead of the game when things get totaled up. Somebody gets 6 stars, that ends the game, and then you total up points at the end of all of it. There's just so much to work on in this game, so much to explore with your particular faction board and your efficiency engine. It is delicious fun. I love the aesthetic. I love that there's just enough in-your-face combat, but not a ton of it. There's only so far you can go by beating up your opponents. So that it really speaks to me that this is more of an efficiency engine than a blow up your opponent's engine with your engine. Anyway, number 12, Scythe.
Number 11. Alien Frontiers.
Just barely missing the top 10, and a game that had been in the top 10 for some time is Alien Frontiers. This is a dice-based worker placement game. Your workers are represented by the dice. You'll roll them at the beginning of your turn, and you will place them out on the board in varying combinations. There are some areas of the board that only need 1 die, and others that need sequences of dice, pairs, that sort of thing. You're collecting resources of 2 different types, and you are spending those resources to get more ships, more dice that you get to roll on your next turn, and also placing out colonies on the board that ultimately earn you points. And if you're able to put out those points on the board faster than your opponents, you will claim spaces. There's sort of an area majority aspect where you'll get special powers for placing there. And your momentum continues as you use all of these ships and even destroy some of them on certain spaces, block your opponents from where they may want to go. This big box has a bunch of stuff in it. There's extra asteroids and special rules, various expansions that add more stuff to the game. But even just in its basic form, Alien Frontiers really hums with that resource management race aspect, because it's a race to a certain number of points, and really trying to do it better than your opponents, but with that variability of the dice that keeps you on your toes. But I like the rolling the dice and then trying to make it work for what you're trying to do. Here's what I've got. How can I make it work for me right now? And so it's no longer in the top 10, but number 11 is pretty darn good, I think. Yeah, Alien Frontiers, number 11. There we go. Thank you very much for watching. Next time, it's the top 10 as part of the Summer Spectacular. Boy, I am so glad that was just a dream.
Every summer runners.
Top 100.
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 See what I mean? Fortunately, I have a whole set of games that are on the list. Not them yet. Not them yet. Go away.
Huh?
Oh.